Look at this beautiful watermelon discidia. I don't know how to pronounce that, but there it is in the Hoya wall. I've got the house to myself today, so I'm trying to get on top of some things, one of them being plant care. This gutter shelf system here, it's been empty on the top for a while because I just haven't repotted plants in order to get them to fit up there. So I was thinking about breaking up some big baskets. So maybe I could break up these pots and fill in. I don't know. I'm just concerned it's gonna look like way too much carnosa. What do you think? I wanted to show you one effect of letting your Hoyas get way too dry. So for many reasons I won't go into, most of my Hoyas have been very dehydrated for the past 2 months. So one thing that happens that I've noticed with mine, because I have so many and they all got dehydrated, is that they start budding up. So this guy has recovered, he's mostly hydrated again. But look at that, that's the first time that it's ever budded up there. And it's the middle of winter right now, it's February. This one's budding. Who else? This one, it did actually flower in the beginning of the month. And let's see, I don't remember the name of this one. It's budding up. I don't expect all of these to actually flower, but I have never seen all of my plants like suddenly start putting out peduncles and actually putting buds out on them. It's like so many of my Hoyas that have never flowered before are doing this. And the only difference is I have severely neglected them. Nobody would let them get as dry as I did. So I just thought that was interesting. It seems like when they get super stressed, they start putting out flowers. Hoya hoyetii got some buds. It's a pretty small plant. So maybe if you're really fed up with your Hoyas not putting out buds, just, don't give them water for a month and see what happens. Here's this carnosa, which will probably actually produce those flowers. So they're doing okay now. I'm properly watering them again. The problem was I set the pots into the gutter shelves, but never actually put saucers under them. And they don't touch the bottom of the gutters, so they were never in contact with the water that they really needed. So yeah, they were never able to wick up the moisture. So I went through and put plastic wrap around each pot so that it could kind of hold in some of the moisture when I'm just going around tossing water into the pots. And this guy still looks pretty rough. I think he'll bounce back, but yeah, looking rough. So here I'm opening up my IKEA cabinet to check on these plants, many of which also got dehydrated, but not quite as bad. Here's Hoya fitchii. Can't really see it, but that one also started budding up, and it's a really small plant with some really beautiful suntan. Who else? This one over here, oops, it's got a tiny little peduncle. It's getting sunburned, got black spots all over it. They're under some shop lights. They're just basic LED shop lights. Over here, I think there might be some peduncles on that one. Beautiful sun's dressing. And my Hoya dehydration finally put out a new leaf that it didn't drop, so that was nice. This guy's not doing too good. I think I let it get dry for way too long. I think it's going to recover, but those leaves are not happy. Down here, these leaves rehydrated and they look okay. I probably should take cuttings of it just to make sure that the base isn't a problem, but I'm gonna leave it. Down here, this Hoya caudata is traveling all the way over here, and we've got a little peduncle there. Put that out around the time that everybody was really dehydrated. So yeah, everything is doing pretty much fine. I don't think I lost any Hoyas, but they did lose a lot of growth potential. I was really concerned about this Hoya hypoplasia because the ones that are really special to me, I try not to let them get too dry, but one day I looked at that and it was not doing so hot. So the growth tip has died on there, as you can see. Oops. But yeah, there's that. My Hoya manipurensis is flowering. Pretty uneventful flowers. And if you're curious what happens if you don't fertilize with leca for a while, so this guy probably hasn't gotten nutrients in 2 months. It's still growing at this point, but the leaves are really small. So it'll just grow smaller foliage for a little while, and then if you go too long, it will just stop growing. Okay, here's the other cabinet. We'll take a look inside. I think this is Hoya, let me check here. I think it's Hoya Michelle, but it loves it in here. It grew this long vine that's going all the way up there. The only plant that I really make sure I don't let get too dry is this Hoya Thomsonii, and it's doing really well. It's got a couple vines that are growing new leaves. I should snip off that dead part there. Hopefully this video is not overly depressing, but I just thought it would be interesting to see what the Hoyas look like after you let them get way too dry, because normally people don't do that, and normally they wouldn't make a video about it even if they did. So this one was wrinkly at one point. It's rehydrated now. And so when they got to the really bad point of being overly dry and wrinkly, I just went in, put water in the pot so that you could see it start to come out at the bottom. And then for probably 2 or 3 days, I would just go through and water all of them until there was water that I could see down there. And that did the trick. By day 3, most plants are hydrated again and doing okay. So down here, this guy is doing pretty good. It's growing a new leaf. So the plants in the IKEA shelves fared better than the ones up on the gutter shelves because this traps in a little bit of humidity. So I'm not sure what's going on with this guy because some of the vines are hydrated and some are not. So I think I probably just need to take the pot to the sink and soak it thoroughly, and then it will properly rehydrate. But I'm really happy that it's growing vines up. That's the original base from my grandmother's plant. I chopped all the vines off thinking that the base was dead, and then I soaked it in the sink by accident, and then the next couple days it rehydrated and started growing. So there's that. That was good. Here's Rick's Longing Hearts. It's recently started growing new leaves. Isn't that pretty? And I think it might be trying to bud up, I'm not sure. Over here is a cutting of Hoya vitellinoides. Beautiful. It just started putting out a growth point, so that's exciting. Down here, I don't know why I'm so fascinated with like propagating large pots of Hoya, but from my big hanging baskets, the Costa Farms baskets, I like to just chop off a couple vines and then restart another really full pot. It's like instant gratification, really. I restarted this probably last summer, and now it's looking really full. But I just did really tiny cuttings, like 2 or 3 nodes at most for each stem, and now it's looking pretty. And then over here, another caudata. I think it's different than the previous one. I'm sorry I'm not giving names. Some people have gotten a little upset in the comments that I'm not giving names, but I make these videos as plant therapy for myself, and a lot of people seem to enjoy them, so that's what we're getting today. So the Hoya linearis that I repotted in, or I propagated in soil, it seems to be doing well. Lots of new growth. I don't see too many stems that didn't make it, so that's good. And yeah, close this one up. So a lot of the reason that the plants in here get neglected is because I have an almost 2-year-old. So whenever I open these doors, she comes running and wants to hold the pants, as she says. Pants! Sorry, girlfriend, you can't hold the plants. So that's why that one has been dumped right there, because she was holding it. She tries to be careful. I think she dumps them because she sees me coming. Here's a look at Hoya serpens, because I don't neglect Hoya serpens, and it's doing really well. Look at all those vines that are growing out. No matter how I'm caring for all of my plants, this one always gets attention. I walk by my plants just to look at this one probably every 3 days and make sure that it's happy. So that's what your plants can look like, your Hoyas can look like if every 3 days you check on them. But yeah. This video is turning into a Hoya tour, kind of. So I'm just going to show you some plants over here. This is Hoya bella that was propagated in Lechuza pond, and it's doing pretty well considering the neglect that it has endured. All of the stems that I propagated survived, and they're putting out new growth, so that's good. The one plus to Lechuza pond right now is that it has fertilizer in it that should last about 6 months. So for the rest of the plants that are in leca, they weren't getting fertilizer for a couple months. But this one is starting to grow, so that's nice. Hoya clandestina. This is probably one of my favorite Hoyas because of these huge leaves. So pretty. And then over here we have Hoya finlaysonii longleaf. It's very prehistoric looking. This was an import, and it's doing pretty well. I chopped up the plant that I received and rooted it into a full pot of leca. Now I wish that I had put it in smaller pots so it could have gone up on my gutter shelf. And then over here, kind of buried, is Hoya archibaldiana. It's still trying to look pretty. I chopped it up and rooted it in there. It still looks kind of ugly. But here are some pretty big pots. Hoya surgawensis, I think. Big leaves. It's been chopped back basically everywhere. But it looks like it's starting to put out a new growth point. Oh, several new growth points. It's a reliable grower for me. Here are my daughter's plants. She put these in here. It's doing okay, as long as we splash some water in there every week or so. And then Opavada, one of my very first Hoyas. I think it might have been my second Hoya. I ordered this online in the middle of February, not realizing that you shouldn't do that, but it did just fine. And then this is Hoya rigida. Also could be doing a lot better without the neglect, but I think they'll all bounce back and start growing properly in the springtime when I am managing things better. So yeah, thanks for going on this impromptu Hoya tour. This basket is now rehydrated and it's starting to bud up everywhere. It's really hard to stay on top of keeping this plant hydrated because it should probably be repotted. It's very root bound and it's constantly flowering. I don't know if you can see in there, there's buds everywhere. So the buds really just suck all the moisture out of the plant. So I think this one would like to be soaked like once a week. It's not getting that. Okay, so that's pretty much all I've got to show you. Thanks for watching this if you have, and have a great day.